All right, so are you ready to unlock some serious brain power?
Oh, I'm always ready for that.
Ha ha ha, me too. Well, on today's deep dive, we're taking a close look at a YouTube video that really caught my eye. It's called Smart People Keys to Become Smarter Everyday Audiobook.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one too.
It's based on a book that claims we can actually boost our intelligence, like it's not fixed or anything.
Hmm. So it's not all set in stone after childhood.
Right, exactly. And they pull in all this scientific evidence to back up their claims, so no questionable theories here. I'm already intrigued. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. What really fascinated me was how they break all these complex ideas down into these really practical tips. It's like they're handing us a roadmap to a better, smarter brain.
I love that analogy, a roadmap for our brains. So where does this roadmap lead? What's the first step on our journey to becoming, well, smarter every day?
Well, they start by emphasizing something that seems super obvious, but
Mhm.
it's actually the foundation for everything else. Yeah. Never stop learning.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do we keep up in a world that's changing faster than ever? Like, I'm constantly trying to learn new things just to stay on top of things in my own field.
I hear you. It can feel overwhelming sometimes, right? But that's where the idea of neuroplasticity comes in. You know how our brains are constantly forming new connections throughout our lives?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Well, the video explains how it's like our brains are designed to constantly adapt and evolve, and learning new things, that's the key to keeping our brains flexible and young.
So it's like working out our brains, right? The more we learn, the stronger and more adaptable they get.
You got it. And the research they highlight is amazing. Dedicating even just 30 minutes a day to focused learning can make a real difference in your mental agility.
30 minutes. Wow, that feels doable even on my busiest days. But what exactly do they mean by focused learning? Does it have to be some hardcore academic stuff?
No, not at all. It could be anything that challenges you and exposes you to new information and skills.
So something like, I don't know, learning a new language, or maybe taking up a musical instrument, or even just branching out and reading a book outside my usual genres. Would that count?
Exactly. The video gives all sorts of examples. Coding, painting, even just trying to look at your everyday tasks from a more creative angle. It's about pushing your brain to think differently and forge those new neural pathways.
Hold on. So you're saying even everyday stuff can be a brain booster. Tell me more about that.
Sure. Think about it. How often do you just go through your daily routine on autopilot? Brushing your teeth, making coffee, or commute, it all becomes automatic.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But the video argues that if we just consciously shift our perspective, even during those mundane activities, we can engage different parts of our brains. We can actually spark our creativity.
Wow, that's pretty neat. So instead of just like scrolling through my phone on the train, I can maybe try to make up a story about the people I see or do a mental puzzle.
That's the idea. It's about turning those everyday moments into little brain workouts.
Love it. It's like sneaking in some brain exercise without even realizing it. This is so cool.
It is, right? And speaking of sneaky brain boosts, the next point in the video completely blew my mind. Ready for this?
Hit me with it. I'm all ears.
It's all about reading.
Reading.
Yeah, reading. We all know it's good for us, but they dig into this concept called ideational osmosis.
Ideational osmosis. What's that?
Basically, it means that by reading, you're able to soak up decades of someone else's knowledge and experience, and you can do it in a relatively short amount of time.
Ah, that makes so much sense. Someone spent years, maybe even decades, researching and writing and refining their ideas, and we get to download all that wisdom into our brains just by reading their book.
Right. It's like a fast track to knowledge, expanding your understanding of the world.
Yeah.
And they recommend at least 30 to 60 minutes of reading per day to really benefit.
Okay, that's totally doable. I always feel sharper after a good reading session. It's like my brain has been stretched and challenged in all the right ways.
And they talk about not just the quantity, but also the quality and variety of what you read. Don't be afraid to explore different genres, viewpoints you don't agree with, stuff like that. You never know where you might find that next spark of inspiration.
So you're telling me that even reading fiction can be a brain booster, not just like those super dense nonfiction books.
Oh, absolutely. Fiction can challenge your imagination, improve your empathy, even expose you to different ways of thinking and solving problems. It's a valuable workout for your brain, even if it feels like you're just enjoying a good story.
This is making me want to hit the library right now. So we've talked about never stopping learning, using everyday tasks as brain boosters, and now the power of reading. What else is on this roadmap to a better brain?
Okay, so this next one is all about giving your brain the rest it needs, and it's something we often neglect in our busy lives: sleep.
Ugh, sleep. You're telling me. I know it's important, but I'm totally guilty of sacrificing sleep when I'm stressed or just have too much to do.
Uh-huh. I think we've all been there. But the video really stresses that sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It's absolutely essential for our brains to function properly. They even talk about research that shows just one night of bad sleep can negatively impact your memory, your decision-making, even your mental stamina.
No kidding. Wow, that's kind of scary. I definitely know I feel super foggy and sluggish after a bad night's sleep. So, how much sleep is enough? And do they give any tips for actually getting a good night's rest?
They recommend 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. And they do give some practical tips, like establishing a calming bedtime routine, making sure your bedroom is dark and cool, avoiding screens for an hour or two before bed, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, those are good reminders. I need to be way more intentional about my sleep. It's easy to let it slide when you get busy.
I know what you mean,
Yeah.
but trust me, you'll be amazed by how much better you think and feel when you get enough sleep. A well-rested brain is a sharp, focused, creative brain. It's like you hit the reset button each night so you can wake up ready to go.
Okay, I'm sold. Sleep is officially back on my priority list. And speaking of things that make our brains work better, this next point from the video is super intriguing. It's all about the power of music.
Yeah. Sounds fascinating, isn't it? They talk about how learning to play a musical instrument is like a full-on brain workout.
I've always wanted to learn to play an instrument, but I always thought I was not musical. Is it really possible to learn as an adult?
Absolutely. They emphasize that anyone can become good with enough practice. It's not about being a prodigy or anything. It's about the learning process itself and how it challenges your brain.
So what's happening in our brains when we learn to play music?
You're coordinating your movements, reading music, understanding rhythm and melody all at the same time. It's like a mental symphony.
That sounds intense and really cool, but what are the benefits besides just, the enjoyment of playing music?
Well, there's research showing that musical training can improve memory, focus, emotional intelligence, even math and language skills.
Wait, seriously? Music can actually make you better at math. That's
Uh,
amazing.
Apparently so. There's a connection between musical training and something called spatial temporal reasoning, which is essential for math skills.
Wow, okay, now I'm really feeling inspired to sign up for those guitar lessons I've been putting off. This deep dive is already helping me tap into my hidden potential.
And that's just the beginning. This next point brings us back to the importance of taking care of our whole selves, not just our minds. We've talked about mental exercises, but don't forget about physical exercise. It's actually a huge factor in boosting brain power.
Yeah, I know exercise is good for me, but I'll admit sometimes I feel like it's taking time away from other things I want to do. Like, why should I prioritize physical activity over, say, reading or working on a project? Convince me.
Well, think of it this way. Your brain needs your body to be healthy to function at its best.
Hmm.
And exercise is a super powerful way to support both.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm listening.
The video breaks down the benefits of exercise for the brain. First of all, it increases blood flow, which delivers all those essential nutrients and oxygen.
Hmm.
It also stimulates the production of growth factors. And those are important because they help create new brain cells. They also strengthen the connections between the existing ones.
Hold on, wait a minute. You're saying exercise can actually help our brains grow new cells? I always thought we were stuck with the ones we're born with.
That's a common myth. But research has actually proven that our brains can generate new cells throughout our lives. It's called neurogenesis. And guess what? Exercise is a key factor in promoting that process.
That's incredible. So it's not just about keeping our bodies in shape, it's about keeping our brains in shape too. Okay, I'm starting to see exercise in a whole new light now.
Right. And get this, they even highlight a study showing that people who did cardio for just 30 minutes a day actually saw a measurable increase in their IQ scores.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow, so we don't have to become marathon runners or anything to get those benefits?
Nope, not at all. The key is to just find activities you enjoy and can do regularly. Even a brisk walk, a dance class, a bike ride, it all counts.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to exercise. I'm starting to see it less as a chore and more like an investment in my brain power.
Exactly. It's like if you want your brain to perform at its peak, you need to give it the physical support it needs. And, it's not just about the physical benefits. Exercise also does wonders for your mood, your stress levels, your overall sense of well-being. It's like a win-win for both your mind and body.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered learning, exercise, sleep, reading. Are there any other brain-boosting secrets this video has in store for us?
You bet. Get ready, because this next one is all about mastering the art of productivity. We're going to learn how to get things done in a way that's actually effective and sustainable. No more burnout.
Oh, yes, please. I'm always looking for ways to be more productive, especially these days when it feels like there's never enough time to get everything done.
I know, right? There's always so much going on.
Mm.
What I found really helpful about this video was that it presented a different way of thinking about productivity. It's not about pushing yourself to the limit or trying to cram more into your day.
So, what is it about then?
It's about understanding your natural rhythms of focus and energy. It's about working with your biology, not against it. Like, did you know our bodies go through natural cycles of energy and focus throughout the day?
Hmm, interesting. Tell me more about that.
They're called ultradian rhythms. Think of it like your brain has natural sprint and recovery cycles built in. We naturally go through periods where we're super alert and focused, and then we need periods of rest and recharge.
So wait, are you saying it's not all about willpower? There are actual biological factors at play here?
Exactly. And if we ignore those natural rhythms, it can actually lead to burnout and make us less productive in the long run.
That makes a lot of sense. I've definitely felt that before, like hitting a wall after trying to push myself for too long.
It's like trying to run a marathon at full speed the entire time. Eventually, you're going to crash and burn.
So how can we work with these ultradian rhythms instead of against them? Like, how can we hack our own biology to be more productive?
Okay, so the video talks about this technique called time boxing. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, it rings a bell, but I haven't really tried it. I'm not always the best at sticking to a rigid schedule. I like to go with the flow when it comes to my work.
I get that. It can take some experimenting to find what works for you. But with time boxing, you basically schedule specific blocks of time for different tasks throughout your day. And the key is to take into account your natural energy peaks and dips.
Ah, so instead of trying to force myself to work on a super challenging task when my brain is basically saying, nope, time to rest, I can schedule it for a time when I know I'm usually more focused and energized.
That's exactly it. You're working with your natural rhythms, not against them. And it's not just about when you schedule tasks, it's also about how long you work on them. They recommend aiming for 90, 120-minute blocks of focused work, followed by short breaks to recharge.
Okay, that sounds manageable. It makes sense that taking those breaks would prevent burnout and keep our brains functioning at their best.
Think of it as interval training, but for your brain. You wouldn't try to run at full speed for hours on end without stopping to catch your breath, right? Our brains need those recovery periods too. It allows them to consolidate information and get ready for the next round of focused effort.
Wow, this is really eye-opening. I've always tried to just power through my work, but maybe that's been the wrong approach. Working with my natural rhythms instead of fighting them might be the key to unlocking a whole new level of productivity. Who knew?
It's amazing what we can accomplish when we understand how our brains work. We can literally hack those natural systems to optimize our performance.
That's so cool. Time boxing is definitely going on my list of things to try. What other productivity hacks did the video recommend?
Another big one was creating a supportive environment for productivity.
That makes sense. I know I get distracted easily when my workspace is a mess or there's a lot of noise around me. It's hard to focus.
Absolutely. Minimizing distractions is key. Whether it's putting your phone on airplane mode, closing those extra tabs on your computer, or even finding a quieter place to work if you can. It's all about creating the mental space you need to really zero in on the task at hand.
It's like creating a sanctuary for your brain where it can focus without all that outside noise. I love that image.
Right. And it's not just about the external distractions, it's also about managing those internal distractions.
Oh, you mean all the thoughts and worries and mental to-do lists that are constantly swirling around in our heads?
Exactly. Those can be just as distracting as any external noise. The video suggests building in mindfulness practices, things like meditation or deep breathing exercises. They can help calm those mental distractions and bring your focus back to the present moment.
That's a great tip. I definitely need to be more mindful about managing my own mental clutter. So it sounds like it's about creating that supportive environment, both externally and internally.
You got it. And one more thing they talked about that I found super helpful was leveraging what they called motivation science.
Motivation science. Okay, now I'm really curious. What is that?
It's all about understanding what motivates you personally and then using that knowledge to structure your work in a way that keeps you engaged and on track.
So, for example, if I know I get motivated by rewards, I could build in little incentives for myself throughout the day. Like if I finish this report, I can treat myself to a nice latte.
Exactly. Or if you're the type of person who thrives on deadlines, you could set mini deadlines for yourself to create a sense of urgency. It's about figuring out what makes you tick and then tailoring your approach accordingly.
I love that. It's like taking all the guesswork out of it and giving us a blueprint for creating a system that actually works for us, not against us.
And one of the best things they emphasized was focusing on progress, not perfection.
Yes. It's so easy to get caught up in striving for perfection, and then you end up procrastinating or getting bogged down in tiny details because you're afraid of making a mistake or not doing it perfectly.
Oh, I'm so guilty of that. But they remind us that it's all about progress, not perfection. It's about celebrating those small wins along the way and not getting stuck in the quest for flawlessness.
That's such an important reminder. It's about enjoying the journey, not just obsessing over the destination.
And it's not just about individual productivity either. They also talked about the importance of creating a culture of productivity in our workplaces, in our teams.
Oh, that's interesting. How can we do that?
Well, they talked about encouraging open communication, setting clear goals and expectations, and taking the time to celebrate successes as a team. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels supported and motivated to do their best work.
I love that. It's about shifting away from competition and moving towards collaboration.
Exactly, and it's about recognizing that everyone brings different strengths and styles to the table. When we create that kind of respectful and understanding culture, we can achieve amazing things together.
This is making me rethink how I approach teamwork and leadership. It's not just about individual effort. It's about creating that supportive environment where everyone can thrive. Okay, so we've talked about learning, exercise, sleep, reading, productivity. What else is there?
Okay, now we're going to tackle something super important, but it's often overlooked. And it can actually sabotage all our efforts to be smarter and more productive if we don't address it. Ready for this? It's stress.
Ugh, stress. Tell me about it. We all know that feeling of being mentally fried after a super stressful day. It's like our brains just shut down.
Exactly. Chronic stress can seriously mess with our cognitive function, but the good news is there are ways to combat it.
Okay, tell me everything. What did they say about stress management?
Well, they offered a bunch of strategies, from simple mindfulness practices to more structured things you can try. Like deep breathing exercises are a fantastic way to calm your nervous system.
Yeah, I've heard that before, but I'm not always great about actually doing it. When I'm stressed, taking deep breaths is the last thing I want to do.
I know what you mean. But even just a few minutes of deep breathing each day can make a difference. The key is making it part of your routine, even when you don't feel stressed.
Okay, I can try that. I know that when I do take those deep breaths, I do feel a bit calmer. What other tips did they give?
They also talked about spending time in nature.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, just going for a walk in the park or hiking in the woods always helps me reset.
It's amazing how restorative nature can be.
Yeah.
And there's actual science backing it up. Studies have shown that being in nature can lower cortisol levels, reduce blood pressure, and just make you feel happier.
I'm definitely scheduling in a nature walk soon. Okay, what else did they say about stress management?
They also emphasize the power of gratitude. Taking a few minutes every day to reflect on what you're grateful for can really shift your mindset away from negativity.
Yeah, when you're focusing on problems or feeling stressed, it's easy to get sucked into a vortex of negativity. Intentionally shifting your attention to what you're grateful for can totally help.
It's like a mental reset button. It helps you appreciate what you have, even when things are tough.
Okay, so deep breathing, nature walks, gratitude. Any other tips for dealing with stress?
One more thing they talked about was creating a supportive environment for yourself. That means surrounding yourself with positive, uplifting people and setting boundaries with those who drain your energy.
Oh, totally. Sometimes you got to cut those energy vampires out of your life. Negativity and drama are just too stressful.
Exactly. It's about protecting your own mental well-being. Sometimes you need to say no to things, step away from social media, or just take some time for yourself to recharge.
Self-care is definitely a key part of stress management. Okay, so we've covered managing stress, but what about cultivating positive emotions? I know the video talked about that too, and I'm curious to learn more about that connection.
Right, that was a fascinating part. They were basically saying that positive emotions, feelings like joy, gratitude, love, contentment, they're not just fluffy feel-good stuff.
Mm.
They actually play a huge role in boosting brain power.
Hold on, are you saying being happy can actually make you smarter? That's a pretty wild idea.
Haha. It does sound a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? But that's what the research suggests. Positive emotions can actually enhance your creativity, your problem-solving abilities, and your overall cognitive flexibility.
Wow, that's amazing. So prioritizing activities that make you happy isn't selfish at all. It's actually a way to invest in your brain health.
Exactly. And it makes sense when you think about it. When you're stressed and anxious, it's hard to think clearly and come up with new ideas. But when you're feeling happy and relaxed, your brain can really shine.
Totally. When I'm stressed, it's like my brain is stuck in mud. But when I'm feeling happy and inspired, my thoughts just flow effortlessly.
It's amazing how much of a difference it makes.
Yeah.
So how do we cultivate those positive emotions more intentionally? The video gave a few key strategies. One of them was spending quality time with loved ones.
Yeah, that always makes me feel good. Just hanging out with people I care about is such a mood booster.
I know, right? Social connection is so important for our well-being, both mentally and physically. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just having dinner together, going for a walk, or chatting on the phone can make a big difference.
I'm definitely going to make more of an effort to connect with friends and family. It's easy to let those connections slip when life gets busy. So, what else did they recommend for boosting positive emotions?
They also talked about the importance of pursuing hobbies and activities that bring you joy.
So, it's not all about working hard and being productive 24/7. It's okay to make time for things that light us up and make us feel alive.
Exactly. Whether it's painting, playing music, gardening, dancing, or anything else that sparks your passion, making time for those activities can truly nourish your soul and boost your brain power at the same time.
I remember taking a pottery class a few years ago, and I was so in the zone during those classes. I felt such a sense of accomplishment and joy. Maybe I should get back into pottery.
That's a perfect example. Engaging in creative activities can be incredibly therapeutic and stimulating for your brain. Okay, so we've talked about social connection, hobbies, anything else we can do to boost those good vibes.
Good question.
Well, the video highlighted the importance of helping others. Even small acts of kindness can make a difference. They've actually been shown to boost your mood and increase feelings of happiness and well-being.
Yeah, they say it's better to give than to receive, right? Helping others just feels good and it has a positive impact on the world around us.
Absolutely. And when we focus on helping others, it shifts our attention away from our own problems. It helps us tap into a sense of purpose and connection that can be so rewarding.
You know, I'm starting to notice a theme here. It's like all these things we've talked about for boosting brain power, sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management, positive emotions, they're all connected.
That's a great observation. It's not about isolating these things. It's about recognizing how they all work together to create this holistic approach to maximizing our cognitive potential.
And the best part is that they don't just benefit our brains, they benefit our lives as a whole.
It's true. We become more focused, more resilient, more creative, more fulfilled. It's like a ripple effect of positive change.
I love that. This is so inspiring. It's like we're not just stuck with whatever brain power we were born with. We actually have the power to shape and mold it through our choices and actions.
Exactly. We're not passive recipients. We get to be the architects of our own minds. And that's what makes this whole journey so exciting. It's a constant process of learning, growing, and evolving.
That's a great perspective. So to recap, we've covered the importance of sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and cultivating positive emotions. But there's one last piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about yet, and it's something a lot of us struggle with, especially in our fast-paced, always-on world. It's productivity.
Yes. Productivity, the art of getting things done effectively and efficiently. And it's more relevant than ever in today's world.
It feels like everyone is constantly trying to do more in less time. But while efficiency is important, it's also important to approach productivity in a way that's sustainable and doesn't lead to burnout. Like, how can we find that balance?
That's a great question, and the video actually offered some really helpful insights on that.
Right.
First and foremost, they emphasize understanding our natural rhythms of focus and energy. It's about working with our biology, not against it. Like, have you ever heard of ultradian rhythms?
Ultradian rhythms? That sounds familiar, but I'm not sure I know what they are.
They're basically these natural cycles of energy and focus that our bodies go throughout the day. Think of it like your internal clock that tells you when you're naturally more alert and productive and when you need to rest and recharge. It's not just about willpower, it's about biology.
Wait, so you're telling me it's not all about willpower? That there are actual biological factors at play here?
Absolutely. And ignoring those natural rhythms can actually lead to burnout and make us less productive in the long run. It's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here. I've definitely felt that before, like pushing myself to work when my brain is just not having it, and then I end up getting nowhere. So, how can we work with these ultradian rhythms instead of against them? What are the secrets to hacking our own biology for maximum productivity?
Great question. The video offers some really practical strategies. One of them is called time boxing, which basically involves scheduling specific blocks of time for different tasks throughout your day.
Hmm.
But the key is to take into account those natural peaks and dips in your energy levels. So instead of trying to force yourself to focus on something super challenging when your brain is naturally in a recovery cycle, you can schedule it for a time when you know you're usually more alert and energized.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about working with your natural rhythms, not against them, like matching the task to your brain's natural energy level.
Exactly. And it's not just about when you schedule tasks, it's also about how long you work on them. They recommend aiming for 90 to 120-minute blocks of focused work, followed by short breaks to recharge.
Okay, I like that. It's like building in those natural recovery cycles into our workday instead of trying to fight them.
Precisely. It's like interval training for your brain. You wouldn't try to run at full speed for hours on end without stopping to catch your breath, right? Our brains need those recovery periods too. It allows them to consolidate information and get ready for the next sprint of focused effort.
This is blowing my mind. I've always tried to just power through my work for as long as possible, but maybe that's been the wrong approach. Working with my natural rhythms instead of fighting them might actually be the key to unlocking a whole new level of productivity. This is amazing.
Isn't it amazing what we can achieve when we understand how our brains work? It's like we can hack those natural systems to optimize our performance.
I love that. Okay, so time boxing is definitely going on my to-do list to try out. What other productivity hacks did they talk about in the video?
Another big one was creating a supportive environment for productivity.
That makes sense. I know I get distracted super easily when my workspace is a mess or there's a lot of noise going on around me. It's hard to focus.
Exactly. Minimizing distractions is key, whether it's putting your phone on airplane mode, closing extra tabs on your computer, or even finding a quieter spot to work if you can. It all makes a difference. It's all about creating that mental space you need to truly focus on whatever you're working on.
It's like creating a sanctuary for your brain where it can do its best work without all the noise and distractions of the outside world. I love that imagery.
Right. And it's not just about managing those external distractions, it's also about managing the internal ones.
Oh, you mean all the thoughts and worries and mental to-do lists that are constantly swirling around in my head?
Yep, exactly. Those could be just as distracting as any external noise. The video suggests incorporating mindfulness practices, like meditation or deep breathing exercises, into your routine. They can help calm all that mental chatter and bring your focus back to the present moment.
Those are really helpful tips. I definitely need to be more mindful about managing my own mental clutter. So it sounds like creating that supportive environment is about both external and internal factors.
You got it. And one more thing they talked about that I found really helpful was the idea of motivation science.
Motivation science. Okay, now I'm intrigued. What's that all about?
It basically means figuring out what motivates you personally, and then using that knowledge to structure your work in a way that keeps you engaged and on track.
So, like, if I know I get motivated by rewards, I could build little incentives for myself throughout the day. Like, if I finish this report, I can treat myself to a fancy latte.
Exactly. Or if you're someone who thrives on deadlines, you could set mini deadlines for yourself throughout the day to create that sense of urgency. It's about understanding your own personal motivation recipe and then tailoring your approach accordingly.
I love that. It's like taking the guesswork out of it and giving us a blueprint for creating a system that actually works for us, not against us.
And one of the best pieces of advice they gave was to focus on progress, not perfection.
Yes. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to do everything perfectly, and then we end up procrastinating or getting bogged down in tiny details because we're afraid of making mistakes.
I'm so guilty of that too. But the video reminds us that it's about celebrating those small wins along the way and not getting stuck in the quest for flawlessness. Progress over perfection, always.
Such a good reminder. Okay, so we've covered productivity on a personal level, but they also talked about creating a culture of productivity in the workplace. What did they have to say about that?
Well, they emphasized fostering open communication, setting clear goals and expectations as a team, and celebrating successes together. It's all. They talked about encouraging open communication, setting clear goals as a team, and celebrating successes together. It's about creating a supportive environment where everyone feels motivated to do their best.
I love that. It's like shifting the focus from individual competition to collaborative achievement.
Exactly. Recognizing that everyone has different strengths and working styles is key.
Yeah.
And when we have that respect and understanding, Well, we can achieve amazing things together.
It makes you think about how to be a better leader, a better teammate. It's not just about individual effort, right? It's about creating an environment where everyone can really thrive. So we've talked about learning and exercise and sleep and reading and productivity. Is there anything else this video covers?
There's one more thing. It's often overlooked, but it can really sabotage all our efforts to be smarter and more productive.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's stress.
Oh, stress. Don't I know it? You know that feeling of being totally mentally fried after a super stressful day? It's like my brain just gives up.
I know exactly what you mean, and chronic stress can really wreak havoc on your cognitive function. But the good news is,
There's hope.
there's hope.
Yeah.
The video actually offers some really good strategies for managing stress. Some are simple mindfulness practices, and some are a bit more structured.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me those stress-busting tips.
Well, they talk about deep breathing exercises. They're a fantastic way to calm your nervous system.
Yeah, I've heard that, but to be honest, when I'm feeling stressed, deep breathing is about the last thing I want to do.
I hear you. It can be tough to make time for that stuff when you're feeling overwhelmed. But the video makes a good point. Even just a few minutes of deep breathing each day can make a world of difference. It's all about making it a habit, even when you don't think you need it.
Okay, I can try that. Even just a few deep breaths, and yeah, I do feel a bit calmer. What else did they recommend?
Spending time in nature is another great stress reliever.
Oh, 100%. I'm a huge believer in that. Whenever I'm feeling super stressed, going for a walk in the park, or even just being out in nature for a bit, it always helps me reset.
It's pretty amazing how restorative nature can be, right? And there's science to back it up. Studies have actually shown that spending time in nature can reduce those stress hormones, lower your blood pressure, and just generally improve your mood.
Sounds like I need to schedule in some nature time AFE. Okay, what else did they say about stress?
They also talked about practicing gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah, like taking a few minutes each day to just think about things you're grateful for can really help shift your focus away from all the negative stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's easy to get stuck in that negative spiral when you're feeling stressed, right? But intentionally focusing on what you're grateful for can help you reframe things.
It's like hitting the reset button on your brain. It can help you appreciate the good things you have, even when things are tough. So we've got deep breathing, nature, gratitude. Oh, and they also talked about creating a supportive environment for yourself.
Oh, you mean surrounding yourself with good people? Less drama, less negativity.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to create a little space to protect your own well-being. You know, it might mean saying no to certain commitments or stepping away from social media for a bit, or even just taking some time for yourself to recharge.
Yeah, sometimes self-care is the best stress management there is. Okay, so that's stress. But what about positive emotions? I know the video touched on that too, and I'm really intrigued by that connection.
Yeah, that was a fascinating part of the video. They basically argued that positive emotions, joy, gratitude, love, contentment, they're not just these fluffy feel-good things. They actually play a key role in boosting brain power.
Wait, are you serious? So you're telling me being happy can actually make you smarter?
That's what the research suggests. Positive emotions have been shown to enhance creativity, problem-solving skills, and overall cognitive flexibility. It's like your brain is just more open and receptive to new information and ideas when you're in a positive state of mind.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's not selfish at all to prioritize things that make us happy. It's actually an investment in our brain health.
Exactly. And when you think about it, it makes sense. When you're stressed and anxious, it's hard to think clearly, right? But when you're relaxed and happy, your brain can really work its magic.
Can totally relate to that. When I'm stressed, it's like my brain is stuck in slow motion. But when I'm feeling good, it's like my thoughts are flowing freely. So how can we intentionally cultivate more of those positive emotions? What do the videos suggest?
Well, one of the things they highlighted was spending quality time with loved ones.
Oh, yeah, that's a guaranteed mood booster for me.
Right. Social connection is so important for our well-being, both mentally and physically. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just having a meal together, going for a walk, or even just chatting on the phone can make a world of difference.
I'm definitely going to make more of an effort to connect with friends and family more often. It's easy to let those connections slip when life gets busy. What else did they recommend for boosting positive emotions?
They also talked about pursuing hobbies and activities that bring you joy.
So it's not all about work and productivity all the time. It's okay to make time for things that make you feel good and light you up.
Exactly. Whether it's painting, playing music, gardening, dancing, or anything else that brings you joy, making time for those activities can actually nourish your soul and boost your brain power at the same time. It's a win-win.
It makes me think about when I took that pottery class a few years ago. I was so in the zone during those classes. I felt this incredible sense of accomplishment and joy afterward. I need to get back into pottery.
That's a perfect example. Engaging in creative activities can be so therapeutic and stimulating for the brain. It's like giving your brain a spa day. So we've got social connection, hobbies. Oh, and they also talked about helping others.
Helping others?
Yeah, like acts of kindness, even small ones. They've been shown to boost your mood and increase feelings of happiness and well-being.
There's that saying, it's better to give than to receive. It really is true, isn't it? Helping others just feels good. Plus, it makes a positive impact on the world around us.
Exactly. And when you shift your focus to helping others, it can actually help take your mind off your own problems. You tap into a sense of purpose and connection, and that can be incredibly rewarding.
You know, I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's like all these things we've been talking about: sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management, positive emotions, they're all interconnected.
That's a great observation. It's not about looking at these things in isolation. It's about recognizing how they all work together to create a more holistic approach to maximizing our cognitive potential. It's about taking care of our whole selves, not just our brains.
And the best part is they don't just benefit our brains, right? They improve our lives as a whole.
Exactly. We become more focused, more resilient, more creative, more fulfilled. It's like this amazing ripple effect of positive change that extends to every area of our lives.
This is so inspiring. It's like we're not just stuck with whatever brain power we were born with. We have the power to shape and mold it through the choices we make and the actions we take each and every day.
Exactly. We're not just passive recipients. We're the architects of our own minds. And that's what makes this whole journey of personal growth so exciting. It's a constant process of learning, growing, and evolving. So to recap, we've talked about the importance of sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and cultivating those positive emotions. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that we haven't talked about yet, and it's something that a lot of us struggle with, especially in our fast-paced, always-on world.
Oh, okay, let's hear it. What's the missing piece?
It's productivity.
Productivity. It's a hot topic these days. Everyone's trying to do more in less time, it seems. And while efficiency is important, it's also got to be sustainable, right? How do we find that balance? How can we be productive without burning ourselves out?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And this video actually had some really interesting things to say about it. First and foremost, they emphasize the importance of understanding those natural rhythms of focus and energy that we were talking about earlier. It's about working with our biology, not against it. Remember, ultradian rhythms.
Ah, yes. Those natural energy cycles.
Exactly. Think of it like your internal clock. It tells you when you're naturally more alert and focused, and when you need to take a break and recharge. It's not just about willpower. It's about working with your body's natural rhythms.
So if we ignore those rhythms, what happens?
Well, that's when we run into trouble. We end up pushing ourselves when our brains are basically saying, nope, time to rest. And that's a recipe for burnout and decreased productivity in the long run. It's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I've definitely had those days where I'm trying to force myself to work when my brain is just not having it, and I end up getting nowhere. So how do we work with those ultradian rhythms instead of against them? What are the secrets to hacking our biology for maximum productivity?
I'm glad you asked. The video gives some really practical strategies for doing just that. One technique they recommend is called time boxing. Have you ever tried that?
I've heard of it, but I haven't really given it a try. I tend to be more of a go-with-the-flow kind of person when it comes to my work.
I totally get that. It takes some experimentation to find what works best for you. But the basic idea behind time boxing is that you schedule specific blocks of time for different tasks throughout your day. But here's the key. You take into account those natural peaks and dips in your energy levels.
Ah, so instead of trying to force myself to work on something super challenging when my brain is basically saying time to rest, I can schedule it for a time when I know I'm usually more focused and energized.
Exactly. You're working with your natural rhythms, not against them. You're matching the task to your brain's natural energy level.
That makes so much sense. What else is involved with this time boxing technique?
It's not just about when you schedule tasks. It's also about how long you work on them. The video recommends aiming for 90 to 120-minute blocks of focused work, followed by a short break to recharge. Kind of like interval training, but for your brain.
Okay, that's a manageable chunk of time. It makes sense that taking those breaks would help prevent burnout and keep our brains running smoothly.
Exactly. It's like you're giving your brain a chance to catch its breath and consolidate all that information it's been processing.
This is so interesting. I've always tried to just power through my work for as long as possible, but now I'm realizing that maybe that's been the wrong approach all along. Working with my natural rhythms instead of fighting them could be the key to unlocking a whole new level of productivity.
Isn't it amazing what we can accomplish when we understand how our brains work?
Yeah.
We can literally hack those natural systems to optimize our performance.
I love that. Time boxing is definitely going on my to-do list to try out.
Yeah.
What other productivity tips did they have?
Creating a supportive environment for productivity was another big one. Minimizing distractions, setting yourself up for success.
Right, because distractions are the enemy of productivity. I know I get sidetracked super easily when my workspace is cluttered or there's a lot of noise going on around me.
Exactly. So it's about being intentional about minimizing those distractions. Whether it's putting your phone on airplane mode, closing those extra tabs on your computer, or even just finding a quieter place to work if you can. All those things can make a big difference. It's about creating that mental space you need to really focus.
It's like building a sanctuary for your brain, a place where it can do its best work without all the noise and distractions of the outside world.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about managing those external distractions. What about the internal ones?
You mean all the thoughts and worries and mental to-do lists that are constantly swirling around in my head?
Yep, exactly. Those can be just as distracting as any external noise. The video suggests incorporating mindfulness practices into your routine, things like meditation or deep breathing exercises. They can help quiet all that mental chatter and bring your focus back to the present moment.
Those are great tips. I definitely need to be more mindful about managing my own mental clutter. So creating that supportive environment for productivity is really about both external and internal factors.
Exactly. And one more thing they talked about that I found really helpful was this idea of motivation science.
Motivation science. Okay, I'm intrigued. What is that all about?
It's basically about understanding what motivates you personally and then using that knowledge to structure your work in a way that keeps you engaged and on track. It's like finding your own personal motivation recipe.
So for instance, if I know I'm motivated by rewards, I could build in little incentives for myself throughout the day. Like if I finish this report, I can treat myself to a fancy latte.
Exactly. Or if you're someone who thrives on deadlines, you could set mini deadlines for yourself throughout the day to create that sense of urgency. It's all about figuring out what makes you tick and then tailoring your approach accordingly.
I love that. It takes all the guesswork out of it and gives you a blueprint for creating a productivity system that actually works for you, not against you. What other productivity gems did they share?
One of my favorite tips was to focus on progress, not perfection.
Oh, that's so important. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to do everything perfectly, and then you end up procrastinating or getting bogged down in tiny details because you're afraid of making a mistake.
I do that all the time. It's such a trap.
Mm.
But the video really emphasized that it's about celebrating those small wins along the way, not getting stuck in the quest for flawlessness.
Hmm.
Progress over perfection, always.
That is such a good reminder. Okay, so we've talked about individual productivity, but they also mentioned creating a culture of productivity in the workplace.
Absolutely. They talked about fostering open communication, setting clear goals and expectations as a team, and celebrating successes together. It's all about creating an environment where everyone feels supported and motivated to do their best.
Love that. It's like moving away from that every man for himself mentality and embracing a more collaborative approach.
Exactly. And recognizing that everyone brings different strengths and working styles to the table. When you have that culture of respect and understanding, you can achieve amazing things together.
This is making me rethink how I approach teamwork and leadership. It's not just about individual effort. It's about creating a supportive environment where everyone can thrive. Okay, so we've covered learning and exercise and sleep and reading and productivity and stress management and positive emotions. Did we miss anything?
Well, there's one more thing that the video talked about, and it's kind of the glue that holds everything together, and that's self-care.
Yes. Self-care. It's such a buzzword these days. But I'm curious to know how they talked about it in the context of boosting brain power.
They emphasize that taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional well-being is essential for maximizing your cognitive potential. You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. If we're exhausted and stressed and running on fumes, our brains just aren't going to function at their best. So what are some examples of brain-boosting self-care? What did the video recommend?
Well, they talked about doing things that help you relax, recharge, and reconnect with yourself. Think Taking a warm bath, reading a good book, spending time in nature, listening to your favorite music, meditating, practicing yoga, getting a massage, really anything that fills your cup.
Yeah, it's about finding those activities that help you de-stress and bring you back to center. And sometimes self-care is simply about saying no to things that drain your energy and prioritizing your own needs. It's about setting boundaries.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that the video actually frames self-care as an act of
Oh,
intelligence.
I like that. How so?
Because it's about recognizing that you need to take care of yourself in order to function at your best, both mentally and physically. It's not selfish, it's smart.
So it's not selfish to prioritize self-care. It's actually a sign of intelligence. I love that reframing.
It's an investment in your well-being and your ability to thrive in all areas of your life, including maximizing your cognitive potential.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on self-care. It's not just about pampering ourselves. It's about being responsible for our own well-being and creating the conditions for our brains to flourish.
Love that. And one final thought from the video that really resonated with me was the importance of fostering a growth mindset, not just in ourselves, but in those around us as well.
A growth mindset, that's so important. It's that belief that our abilities aren't fixed, that we can always learn and grow with effort.
Exactly. It's about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than seeing them as threats or setbacks. And that applies to our own personal development, as well as how we raise our children, lead our teams, interact with our communities. It's about creating a culture that values learning, growth, and resilience.
Beautifully said. You know, it all comes back to this incredible idea that we're not stuck with the brains we were born with. We have the power to shape and mold our own cognitive destinies through our choices and actions.
I love that. It's like we're all sculptors of our own minds. We have the tools and techniques to create masterpieces.
It's about embracing that lifelong journey of learning, exploring, and expanding our minds. And the possibilities are truly endless. I'm feeling so inspired after this deep dive. It's like we've been given a whole new toolkit for maximizing our brain power and living more fulfilling, productive, and extraordinary lives.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about doing everything perfectly or making drastic changes overnight. It's about incorporating small, consistent changes into our daily lives that can have a profound impact over time. It's about those little steps we take each day that add up to something truly amazing.
That's a great point. It's about building those brain-boosting habits one step at a time. And speaking of steps, what about our listeners? What's one thing that's resonated with you the most from this deep dive? What's one small step you can take today to implement one of these brain-boosting strategies?
It doesn't have to be some huge life change either. Maybe it's something simple like adding a handful of walnuts to your breakfast.
Oh yeah, good idea for that omega-3 boost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe you finally commit to ditching screens an hour before bed and pick up a book instead.
I know I need to do that. Or, hey, maybe it's just taking 5 deep breaths before you dive into your inbox each morning. Whatever it is, those small changes can really add up.
You're absolutely right. It's like compound interest, but for your brain. Small, consistent actions lead to big results over time.
And it's not a solo mission either. We've got this. We can support each other as we explore all these ways to boost our brain power. What works for you might inspire someone else.
I love that. Sharing what we're learning, the challenges, the successes, it creates this amazing community feeling. And we can all keep each other accountable too. So we've reached the end of our deep dive, but the journey's just beginning, right?
Absolutely. So here's my challenge for you.
Yeah.
What's one thing, just one small step that you can take today to try out one of these strategies?
It doesn't have to be anything drastic, just a little something to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Maybe you finally buy those blackout curtains you've been thinking about.
Oh, yeah, for better sleep. That's a good one. Or maybe you finally sign up for that dance class you've been eyeing. Or, hey, maybe you just make a point of smiling at a stranger today.
I love all those ideas. Remember, every little step creates momentum. It's about building those brain-boosting habits over time.
And as we learn and grow, our brains become more adaptable, more resilient, more capable of amazing things. So keep those brains buzzing, folks. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep unlocking the incredible potential of your mind. Because you are capable of extraordinary things.